Yes. See, we can only improve from here. That's what I'm thinking. Good morning, Daily Huddle family. Today is Tuesday, where we talk about everything communication and relationships, because we know that more effective communication builds better relationships. And what do better relationships build? Better families, better communities, better business, and a more robust, fulfilling life. And we're here today to dig in to communication. And so we're going to start with dusting off a quote that was mentioned last week. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful friend and amazing co-host, Kathryn Sabol.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. We wanted to dig into quotes today and why do we love them so much? And one of my favorite quotes, as Tara mentioned last week, is by a spiritual guru, leader guide named Ram Dass. And it's, "We are all just walking each other home." And that one particularly really touches me. And I want to talk a little bit about the quote and then why we like them. And Tara and I found out this morning that we have very different takes on the quote. I love the quote because I love the idea of non-attachment. It's a Buddhist theory where we're all, and that to me, we're all just walking each other home means we're right here on the planet doing what we do. There's no right, there's no wrong, and we're guiding each other along the way. Right. So it releases all this stress and pressure that I've particularly put on myself of like, oh, I'm doing it right. I need to do this better. I've got to do this better. I've got to be a better mom, a better friend, anything like that. That it's like, actually, we're all in each other's life for a reason. And we can just be who we are and know that we're there for whatever the reason is that we may not know. So for me, it really frees me and allows me to show up in relationship in a way that puts my voices at ease, those saboteur, naggy voices that tell me I'm not doing a great job. And so before we dive into quotes in particular, in general, and like why we love them, Tara, I wanted to hear what your take on the quote was, because we did find out that we see it quite differently, which doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. We see a lot of things differently.
Well, I want to roll back just a moment and remind us that last week our guest, Jamie Young, brought that quote up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gave me a little shiver because the first time I ever heard the quote, Kathryn, was from you. And the minute it came out of your mouth, I never forgot it. And as soon as I heard it, and you sort of said it in passing, like you didn't lead up to it with like, okay, I've got the quote of the world. You just mentioned it. But when you did, I mean, literally one time I heard it, I never forgot it because it gives me this really beautiful sense of peace.
Mm.
And it gives me peace because it reminds me that if we're in a crowd of thousands of people or we're sitting alone, that we're on a journey that's not so different from everyone else's. And as much as we might need a hand to hold, so does everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it also reminds me that we are, in the grand scheme of things, we're only here for a season. Now, everybody has a different view on the afterlife. And for me personally, I am kind of enamored with the fact that I don't know. That's okay with me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so to me, that makes the connection with people around us all that much more important and more valuable. And so it just reminds me to treasure each and every person, no matter where they came from, what their life experiences were, that at the end of the day, we're so much more alike than we are different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny, I don't know if it's because it's the topic, but all these quotes keep popping in my head. And so when you said we're all on a journey, the one that came to me is, "Don't judge my book based on the chapter that you came in on."
Ooh,
And
I like that.
right, because it's like, and it reminds me exactly what you're saying is that I'm right, I am this way right now, but no idea where I'll be tomorrow, next week, next year, where I came from, the progress I may have made, all of that. And it's like to hold that we are all on a journey and that there's so much around us that's built up to this point, so many experiences that we've been through. Everyone has been through hardship. There's not a single person who can escape it on the planet. And to just appreciate that, because I think often, and this kind of goes towards why do we like quotes? Often I get stuck in my own head. And it's not when I do, and I'm in a narrative and it's a negative one, it's not a comfortable place to be.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel good. I'm not fun to be around. I don't want to be with myself. Guess what? I can't get away from myself. So to see some of these quotes is really, it takes me to a different place. It shifts my brain even for a moment and takes me to a different place,
Mm-hmm.
right? A better place.
Totally. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was reading a little bit about this, and the person who coined this phrase, Ram Dass, as you mentioned, he says this about quotes in general. We're fascinated by the words,
Mhm.
but where we meet is in the silence behind them. And so it's after hearing them, just that moment to really let them resonate. That's when I think they matter most.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I did read that we are fascinated by words and how they land with us.
Yeah.
And I did do a little bit of research to see like why do we like these? What are other people saying about this? And one of the most interesting things I found was they remind us of what we already know.
Mm.
And it got me wondering, like, is that resonance?
Mm-hmm.
Am I attracted to that quote because I know that to be true? I may not be living it in this moment, but it's helping me get more into alignment of who I truly am.
I love that reminder. As a matter of fact, this was, I don't know how many years ago, but I heard somebody say this and I've never forgotten it as well. It's not really a quote, but if you sit down and you listen to someone speak and they say things, just as you mentioned, that you already know, don't fold your arms and say, this, I already know this. I don't need to be here. Charge yourself with, I already know this. How much better at this can I be? If I
Mhm.
believe it to be true, I believe it to be wise, then how can I lean more into what it is that I believe? So I love that you're saying that quotes remind us of what we already know, but just because we know them doesn't mean that we are living them, right? And so
Mhm.
they're great reminders that I think affect our actions.
Mhm. In coaching, we call what you just said beginner's mind. And
Hmm.
we're always invited as a coach to show up with beginner's mind because if we don't, and we're coaching somebody and we think we know what they're saying or what the answer is or something like that, then we may miss all
Mhm.
the context of who they are, their past experience, what they're really bringing to the moment. So it's to always show up with beginner's mind.
Ooh, I
And
like.
I love that too. It's like, because every moment is brand new.
Mhm.
Nothing is ever repeated. No moment. This moment will never be repeated, no matter how many times we show up to the daily huddle dressed in the same clothes with the same people. It's a
Yep.
brand new moment with brand new possibilities.
I love that. It makes me think of one of the other quotes that this isn't really a quote, but it makes me think of I was watching an acceptance speech by Matthew McConaughey, one of my favorite people. But this was years ago, and I just still remember it. Um, he was saying in this acceptance speech that someone asked him who his hero is,
Mhm.
and he said, me. And I was like, oh, that sounds arrogant. And he said, me 10 years from now. And that will always be my hero because I'm always looking to grow into the better person that I can dream to be. And I love that. And we need these grounding reminders. It's not like we learn something and it's one and done.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so true. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they said that the number one thing that's holding us back is what the story that we're holding in our mind about why we can't do whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's so in line with that. Like if we stay in that narrative and we don't grow, we won't be our hero in 10 years. We won't step into who we truly are, get alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times like I said, these quotes just take me personally out of that place and into what is possible. I'm feeling the stress of today and or the habitual, but then it's like, actually, what is possible? And that can change our physiology.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about this quote, and I've told you this before, but when I think about we're all just out here walking each other home, I think you might know that a few weekends ago I had a moment where I lived in that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Now, let me
Uh-oh.
tell you all this story. This was almost 2 weeks ago. And I think it was one time when I was on point with living in this quote. And I was in Chattanooga with Mike, and now you know what I'm going to say. And we were walking through the town, just kind of ambling through the town. We had a great dinner, and just feeling really just happy and in a great space. And there was a couple walking a little bit in front of us. And the woman, they were about our age, the woman walked a little bit out in front of the man. And then she reached her hands back like you might want to do, and she kind of wriggled her fingers as if to say, "Take my hand." Well, the man was staring up at the Chattanooga Choo Choo, totally clueless that his partner was trying to get him to take her hands. And I was like, I'm not letting my sister be rejected. So I let go of Mike's hand. I took a few steps up and I grabbed her hand and I squeezed it. And she assumed it was him. So she kept walking and she gave me that little, like, you're my person squeeze. And at this point, her husband's watching, my husband's watching this. And so I gave her a little double squeeze. And at that point, I think it hit her. I don't recognize the hand. And she turned around, and the look on this woman's face when she saw me holding her hand, oh, if I could have had, I don't know, that moment gave so much energy. Anyway, as you can imagine, we all start laughing, like doubled over laughing. When she finally stopped laughing, she said in this very British accent, "That was just gorgeous. Thank you. I'll never forget you." And that just took me back to, when we're in our best space. I mean, that was a little bit of my energy of like, we're all just out here walking each other home. And if your husband isn't going to do it, I'm going to do it for him.
Oh, I love that. I love that for so many reasons. I think the number one is like, don't, and we say it in our tenants, like, don't forget to laugh. Like, let's laugh at ourselves. Like, if that is what it is to walk someone home, is like, let's just not forget how to laugh. We're only here for a short time.
I know. And just
I
that, I
love
don't know, that sometimes we don't, as much as I study communication, sometimes we just don't need words to communicate.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true.
Mhm.
Well, I want to open it up and see what other folks kind of have to say, either about what we've shared here or favorite quotes that they have, because I think as we're talking about this and it being inspirational and taking us to a different place, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. Sorrel.
Um, First of all, Tara, the story you just shared, like almost drove me to tears. It leaves me in the space where I'm thinking, oh, we're just here walking each other home. And there was this huge space for compassion and acceptance that opened up as you were sharing the quote about the quote and sharing how you interacted with that woman. So it's like this. I beat myself up from time to time
Mhm.
for not being the way I expect myself to be. And I'm discovering, oh, maybe the way I am right now is just how I'm walking you home. Like if somebody's angry and not communicating well, maybe they're just teaching me how to be patient. And that's how they're walking me home. And maybe when I'm not feeling so good about myself, that's just how I'm walking you home. It's
Yeah.
it's like maybe, just maybe, I don't know this for sure, but just maybe there's no perfect way to be. We're just here walking each other home. And however we are, whatever way we are, works. Yeah, that's what's showing up for me, Tara.
I thank you for that perspective. And I'll tell you that I would love to share this because you just really put into words something that I've been noticing over the past week or so. And I've really learned from this. And you've helped me to really see the beauty in that learning. And it is this, that my son, who is 34, lives with his partner and her daughter, the three of them, and a dog in a little 3-bedroom house. And his partner's mother lives in Venezuela, and they've been trying and trying and trying to get her to the US, and she's finally coming. And so is a cousin. The mother and the cousin are coming from Venezuela, and they're going to move in. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people plus a dog in a little ranch home. And my son is the major breadwinner, and he doesn't make a whole lot of money, but he pays the majority of the bills. And now there's 2 more mouths to feed. And now there's less peace in the house, more commotion, so much more to be concerned about. And I thought, if that were me, if I were my son, I might feel resentment. I might feel stress. I might feel like I'm never going to get any time to myself. And it made me feel proud of him for enduring that until I had a conversation with him. And I asked him, how do you feel about this? You're going to have a crowded house, all these people. And his face lit up and he said, I'm so excited. He said, I love the thought of having that much family around me. And it wasn't that he was enduring it. He's looking forward to it. And he said it several times. I'm so excited. I can't wait for them to get here. And I just thought, when my life feels full and crowded and too many people around me, rather than waiting for it to be over, I'm going to learn to lean into it as a gift. And I learned that from how he's walking me home. So you really helped me to see that, Sorrel.
Oh my God. As you were saying that, it reminds me of another quote because it feels like your son is living inside of that quote. It's by Henry David Thoreau.
Okay.
It says, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die.
Ooh,
For the
I
harder I
love
work,
that.
the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me.
So I thought it was over with the first line. Would you read it one more time?
Yeah. And by the way, just go to your son and hug him for me. Right? I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me.
Wow. I love that so much. I'm going to look for it so I can have it printed out. And I think I'm going to share this episode with my son so I don't have to give him your message.
Yeah.
Love that. Thanks, Sorrel. And Rashida's got her hand up. Rashida.
Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising. Sorrel, thank you so much for the code. Tara and Kathryn, thank you so much for just having me begin to really listen to my grandpapa. It's vividly like he is right in my ears right now, telling us when he used to do the fire circle in the backyard. And he said, he will wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would say, why you wake up in the morning so early, Grandpa? Why you wake up so early? He says, don't worry, I'm going to waste and use up all the days, because when I go to rest and I go home, I'm going to able to sleep the rest of my journey. And now it makes sense. No, just hearing you all guys going through this, I just know that the wisdom that my grandpapa was moving along in us, it's make a lot of sense. So let's just keep wasting everything we have. The time is now. The time is now. So let's keep moving on. Thank you so much for the topic, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rashida. Yeah, I love that. It's so funny because sometimes I can beat myself up for both working too hard and not working enough, because that's just the way my beat up mind works when it gets going. And so to hear all of these again, it just does free me in so many ways to say, actually, this is how I am today, right now, and it's totally fine. And so if that's what quotes do for us, it's like, bring them on. Let's have more of them.
Yeah, lately I've been thinking a lot about this, about hard work, because my work is changing in some ways. And it's not about getting through the work to get to the peace. It's about enjoying whatever that hard work is, even if it's just simply grueling, if it's not energizing, it's not stimulating, there's still something beautiful about it, that we can lean into it and enjoy whatever kind of work it is.
Yeah, I think that's presence. I do that a lot in my workshop when making furniture, et cetera. It's like whether it's really hard, it's like at the end of the day, I can do a lot. I can accomplish a lot. I've proven that to myself. That doesn't make me really feel the greatest. What makes me feel the greatest is when I'm truly present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Either thinking about who it's being made for, thinking about, wow, the ability, or wow, how the materials work together. And so anything I think that brings us into presence like that can elevate our state. Just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that makes me think of one of my other favorite quotes, because I used to say, I don't think I really read this. I think I used to say it to a friend of mine who was always worrying about finding love.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say to her, if you want to find love, be lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read the quote. It might also be Ram Dass, but it's something of the energy of, I don't want to be a lover. I just want to be love. And I think that's so much more powerful than what I used to tell the friend. And that gives me a kind of the same sense of peace as we're all just walking each other home. Just
Mm-hmm.
so simple, but if it's in the silence of it to
Mm-hmm.
walk away from this daily huddle today and just be love,
Mm-hmm.
and to be thoroughly used up by the end of every day. Thank you, Sorrel. That just really excites me. It gives me like a clear, I don't know, a clear goal. How does it land on you?
Well, I think for me, like I said, I think it gives me a different perspective of the one that is either right or wrong. And I think anything that can give me that perspective is freedom. Like when I think about, oftentimes we'll say, what do we want people to take away from this? Because it's one thing to talk about it, but how do we like action some of these things?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I wonder sometimes if the quotes actually tap into your research and is more like a dopamine hit. Like in that moment, I got, oh, that was great, but then I don't really do anything with it. It was very inspirational in the moment, but did that really last? And so for me, it's to think about what is that resonance that I feel when I hear either one of the quotes from today or one of my favorite ones, and tap into that. And how can you, as a habit, touch back in there? Like, how can I get myself more in alignment with, now I feel free because we're walking each other home. There's no parameters on how I need to be. It's perfectly fine how I am right now. That is freedom. So like, how can I practice that and bring myself back to that?
I think we should challenge each other to choose a quote before we meditate and think about that and be in the silence of that before we meditate and see how it affects us. We can check back in.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
Who's
I would
next?
like to hear from somebody else that's on this little group with us before we have to say goodbye, of what the quote "we're all walking each other home" means to you. Oh, Sorrel's got his hand up again, I
He
think.
does.
You, Sorrel?
Yes, something you both said, right, about the quote being a reminder. And what showed up for me is that, oh, we're walking each other home. And my job in walking you home is to remind you of who you are, like the way you were created to be. Like there's so much that I pile on my shoulders and myself as what I could be, what I must be. how I need to show up and all that good stuff, right? And then I have the two of you and everyone else on the Daily Huddle and everyone else in the world reminding me of who I am. And maybe that's our job. While we're walking each other home, it's not to pick me up physically when I fall. It's not to feed me when I'm hungry. It's not any of that. It's just simply to say, to remind me of who I am. And I get to do the same thing for you. I heard that while you were playing around with the quote, and it leaves me energized, filled up, and alive.
Mm. Wow, thank you. That's a reminder for me to stop always focusing on potential and have some gratitude for who I am today, which I have a very hard time with. I'm always looking like for potential and growth and better. And it's maybe a little time to celebrate where we are right now.
And I can't deny it. Hearing you say that makes me feel lazy. Like I'm not up to anything, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Like I think it's a natural tendency to actually, like when I say, oh, I'm fine just the way I am. And I like the next thing that's in the back of my head is, oh, come on, you lazy bum. Get better.
Oh, I see what you're
Get
saying.
better.
Yeah. We got, you know what? I guess, you know what? We can embrace both, right?
Yeah.
Like we can keep striving for greater potential and celebrate who we are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think thinking of like everything that we've been through to get us, because we all have to get us to where we are today, like to like crap on all that, to say, oh, it's not good enough. It's like, wait a minute. Because if you told me that, Tara, I would be like, whoa, no, like that's amazing. Not only who you are today, but look at what you've been through. Right. And it's like, so, yeah, I love it. And I'm seeing again one of our tenants rest in that. Like it's time to just rest from all that ting, 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 get better, like just rest and rejuvenate with like where we are.
Yeah.
It's making me feel all juicy inside. I like it. All filled up. Well, any last words, Tara? Anything you want to leave folks with before we part ways?
Well, I think just I feel so much energy from just this one little half hour of stopping and letting words take their silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, listening and just giving silence to decide how the words are going to land on me today. They might land on me differently tomorrow. And I'm going to focus on that.
I love it. Well, focus on these words and see what they bring for you because they're here for a reason. And these are our 7 tenets of the Daily Huddle: to love, to be loved, to go with love, and to live with love. Laugh, because we're all just walking each other home, so don't forget to laugh. Give of your resources, of your time, of your spirit, and your generous love. And rest. Rest in who you are. You've come a long way, baby, as they say. Eat more plants, get your sleep, and move that body. Thank you all for a great conversation today. We will see you all next time on the Daily Huddle. Move.
Thanks, everybody.